And how can we bring whatever this thing called mindfulness is, which we'll get to in a moment, into these moments of our life, so that the unfolding of our life is this really passionate journey, and not some in the mind, we wake up at the end of our life and look back and wonder how did we go, and what we missed out on, and what we would have done differently. Wouldn't it be nice to know at the time that you're beginning to do something differently than you really would like to do, that that's happening, and then do something different instead? And mindfulness is about cultivating the capacity to have choices about what's really going on in your mind and what your options really are, so that you might choose something different than the automatic, what we call top-down processing, that's engaged, that's just sort of the conditioned way that we keep doing it over and over and over. And so there's two types of exercises that we'll do together today. One will be this exercise, this is what we do in the moment of challenge, these 30-second, 15-second exercises that when we're agitated, when we're frustrated, when we're angry, and we realize it, when we're overwhelmed, when we're flooded, when we're confused, and we realize it, and the trick, of course, is realizing it. Oftentimes we realize it when? Way after the fact. And then we reflect on it, and that can be helpful. But wouldn't it be nice to realize it at the time? And then the double challenge is even when you realize it, you oftentimes can't do anything about it because you're so affected by it. So these are short little exercises that we'll do during the moments of challenge, and they all involve the hands to some extent. That's why you see my hands flailing about. And also, what is this thing from a more traditional sitting practice? This thing where, what's this meditation all about? Well, mindfulness is not necessarily about sitting and meditating. Sitting and meditating can be a very big part of mindfulness. And so we'll also explore what that tastes like, so that you have an experience of that to walk out of it. Because the goal is, and in mindfulness we don't have goals, but I'm a human being, so my goal is for you all to have something reinforced that maybe you already are familiar with, or seeds planted that might be new and interesting, so that then when you find yourself next time, whether it's 5 seconds from now, or a day from now, or a week from now, or a year from now, something might be different. And what we're learning with the neuroscience is that when we begin to relate differently to our experience, the brain changes. It's not just a momentary thing that sort of evens us out, and then we go right back to where we were for the next time. Something changes inside of here. Pascal, the philosopher and mathematician, said, all of man's problems are caused by his inability to sit quietly in a room by himself. All of man's problems are caused by his inability to sit quietly in a room by himself. Do you think he was saying we need to sit quietly in a room by ourselves? I think the most telling thing he was saying is that by and large we can't. By and large, if you plop yourself down, the common experience is if you plop yourself down, and you say, I'm just going to sit. I'm not going to solve a problem. I'm not going to fantasize about this or that. I'm not going to move into, I'm just going to sit. The mind starts moving into the future with worries or plans for what's going to happen next. The mind starts jumping into the past and second-guessing the thing that we did earlier in the day, or regretting something that took place maybe even years ago. That this tendency to try and say, I just want to be here right now for this moment as it is somehow complicated by this mind, this wonderful, extraordinary gift that we have, that like a little puppy dog, tends to wander constantly. And mindfulness has something to do with catching that puppy dog, bringing him back, bringing him back. Now, Pascal did not say all of man's problems are caused by his inability to sit quietly in a room by himself for 40 minutes. Right? Just to do it. And so maybe if you have the experience yourself, or maybe after today you may try, or during a demonstration that we do, what goes on in this mind? And what can we do during those moments where the mind wanders? Because whose mind is it? It's your mind. Whose mind is wandering? Yours. Do you want it to wander? In those moments, presumably not. And yet it does, again and again and again. It's like a snow globe, right? You shake it up. Maybe there's a little snowman in the middle. And if you're part of that flurry of activity, if you're just going, you don't necessarily sense all that frantic, urgent action. But when you become that snowman, all of a sudden you can see, because you're not moving with it, what it is that's happening in this mind. And there's something about the seeing, there's something about the observing, there's something about the watching this mind with all of its anger and frustration and all these judgmental thoughts and all of this sensations that are arising and passing away constantly. There's something about this watching that settles the snow, so that you find yourself, and the metaphors that have been used over the centuries are beautiful. The lake with the muddied waters that calm so that it's crystal clear. The ocean, the choppy waters that settle. The snow that just descends and rests. So that then what's really happening, the snowflakes are all the gotta do's, all the should do's, all the must do's, oh no's, all the things that we do to keep ourselves alive because we're afraid if we don't, we're not going to make it. Which might have been helpful a long, long time ago when the bear was chasing us. It may not be so helpful when the judge is chasing us. The opposing counsel is out. That's not what's actually happening. And yet, there's a deep part of our bodies called the limbic system, which we'll get into, that can't tell the difference. It can't tell the difference. And so we need to be able to communicate this whole mind, communicate it